I was standing on my son's porch, drenched in cold November rain, knocking until my knuckles ached. The lights were on inside. I could see shadows moving through the living room window. Madison was in there. I knew she could hear me, but the door stayed locked. My suitcase was still inside. My medication was inside. I'd only gone to the hardware store to pick up some parts to fix their leaky faucet. When I finally managed to call her from my cell phone, her voice was sweet as honey. "Oh my gosh, Hank. I totally forgot you were staying with us this week. I'm so sorry." Forgot. She forgot her father-in-law was living in her house. For 3 whole days I stood in that rain, waiting. And that's when I knew this wasn't an accident. This was a message. She wanted me gone. But I didn't know yet just how far she'd planned to take it. Before we continue, I would like to know where you're watching from in the comment section. Also hit the subscribe button and share this video, as this will help this video to travel far so others can learn also. 3 days later, she finally let me back in. No explanation. No real apology. Just a fake smile and a plate of frozen lasagna heated in the microwave. My room had been cleared out. My clothes were in garbage bags in the garage. She kept calling me sir, like I was a stranger visiting for dinner. My son Daniel was at work. He didn't know what had happened. She made sure of that. When he came home that evening, she hugged him tight and whispered something in his ear. He glanced at me, confused. "Dad," Madison said, "you went to visit your brother for a few days. Why didn't you tell me?" I opened my mouth to respond, but she cut in quickly. "He probably forgot, honey. You know how forgetful he's been getting." I wasn't forgetful. I was 64, not 90. But I smiled. I nodded. I played along. Because I knew something she didn't. I was already planning my next move. It happened by accident. I was checking the old landline in the hallway for a message from the VA clinic about my appointment. The machine blinked red. One new message. I pressed play. Her voice crackled through the speaker. "Listen, I don't care if he's standing in the rain. He needs to get the hint. I want him gone by Friday. I'm not sharing Daniel with anyone, especially not his needy father." My blood ran cold. I played it again and again. She'd meant to delete it, but she'd hit the wrong button. Her voice, her words, her plan. This wasn't just dislike. This wasn't just tension. This was calculated cruelty. I stood there in that hallway, staring at the answering machine, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to let her destroy herself, and I was going to help her do it. That night, I didn't say a word about the voicemail. I smiled at dinner. I asked Madison about her day at the salon where she worked. She talked about difficult clients and how tired she was. I nodded sympathetically. I even offered to do the dishes. Daniel looked relieved. "See, Dad? You two are getting along great now." Madison's smile was tight. She hated that I was being kind. She wanted me to snap. She wanted me to give her a reason to paint me as the villain. But I wouldn't. I finished the dishes, dried my hands, and went to my room. I pulled out a small notebook from my bag and started writing. Date, time, incident, the locked door, the voicemail, the lies she told Daniel. I was building a case brick by brick, and she had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I started watching her more carefully. She was good at playing the perfect wife. She made Daniel's coffee just right. She kissed him goodbye at the door. But the moment he left, her face changed. The warmth drained away. She looked at me like I was dirt on her expensive white carpet. "You're still here," she said flatly. I smiled. "Daniel invited me to stay for a few more weeks. I hope that's okay." Her jaw tightened. "Of course. You're always welcome." The word welcome dripped with sarcasm. She walked past me, her shoulder bumping mine hard. Not an accident. I watched her disappear into her bedroom and slam the door. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my old friend Ray, a retired family lawyer. "Need advice? Can we talk?" His response came immediately. Anytime, Hank. Call me tonight. I felt a strange calm settle over me. I wasn't alone in this. And I wasn't going to lose my son. Madison started playing small games. She told Daniel I forgot to feed their dog, Charlie. I hadn't. I'd fed him twice that day and had pictures on my phone to prove it. She said I left the garage door open all night. I hadn't. I showed Daniel the security camera footage. She claimed I misplaced his important work mail. I handed it to him from my room where I'd kept it safe after finding it on the porch. Each time, Daniel looked more confused. Dad, are you sure you're okay? Madison's worried about you. I could see the seeds she was planting. She was building a narrative, the forgetful old man who couldn't take care of himself. The father who was becoming a burden. I wasn't angry. I was fascinated. She was so confident in her lies. But lies have a way of unraveling when you pull the right thread. And I was about to start pulling. I decided to bait her. One morning, I started a conversation in the kitchen while Daniel was in the shower. I kept my voice low. Madison, I know what you're doing. She froze, coffee mug halfway to her lips. Excuse me? I leaned against the counter. The voicemail. I heard it. Her face went pale, then red. She stepped closer, voice dropping to a hiss. You're not welcome here, Hank. You need to leave. I didn't raise my voice. I just smiled. I know. Then I walked out of the kitchen. I heard her breathing hard behind me. I heard her fumble with her phone. She was panicking. Good. Let her panic. Let her make mistakes. Daniel came downstairs a few minutes later. Everything okay? I thought I heard voices. Madison's smile was shaky. Just chatting with your dad. Everything's fine. But her hands were trembling. And Daniel noticed. The next incident came fast. Madison told Daniel I refused to pick up groceries she'd asked me to get. I let her finish her story. Then I calmly pulled out the receipt from my wallet. Actually, I bought everything on the list, plus a few extra things I thought you might need. I handed it to Daniel. His eyes scanned the paper. $73. All paid by me. Again. He looked at Madison. Why did you say he didn't go? She stammered. I thought he forgot. I didn't see the groceries in the kitchen. I pointed to the fridge. They're all put away. I did it while you were napping. Daniel's expression shifted. It wasn't anger. It was doubt. That tiny crack in his trust for her. That was all I needed. I didn't push. I just smiled and went back to my room. Let him sit with that doubt. Let it grow. Madison tried to turn the tables. She claimed I broke the kitchen faucet. She made a big show of it, calling Daniel at work in tears. Your dad was messing with the sink, and now it's flooding. Daniel rushed home, panicked. But when he got there, I was calmly standing in the kitchen with a wrench, the faucet working perfectly. I'd actually fixed a leak that had been there for weeks. Madison stood in the doorway, speechless. I don't understand. It was broken. I pulled out my phone and showed Daniel a video I'd recorded. Me fixing the faucet step by step. Time-stamped from that morning. I thought I'd document the repair in case you wanted to learn how to do it yourself, I said calmly. Daniel watched the video. Then he looked at Madison. Why did you say it was flooding? She had no answer. Just stuttering excuses about being confused. That night, I heard them arguing through the walls. Her voice was shrill. His was quiet but firm. The cracks were getting wider. I told them I was moving out. I packed my bags slowly, deliberately. I hugged Daniel tight at the door and said, I just don't feel welcome here anymore. But it's not your fault, son. You've been nothing but kind. His face crumpled. Dad, please, don't go because of some misunderstandings. I shook my head. It's better this way. I don't want to cause problems in your marriage. Madison stood behind him, trying to hide her smile. She thought she'd won. She thought I was retreating, defeated. I saw the relief in her eyes. But I wasn't retreating. I was regrouping. I had the voicemail saved on 3 different devices. I had my journal filled with dates and incidents. I had witnesses who'd seen her behavior, and I had Ray's advice on exactly how to proceed. As I drove away from that house, I didn't feel sad. I felt focused. This was just the beginning. A week later, Daniel called me. His voice was stressed. "Dad, did you cancel my car insurance?" I frowned. "No. Why would I do that?" He sighed. "The company said someone called from my account and canceled the policy. They said it was you." I felt a chill. "Daniel, check who's listed as a secondary contact on that account." There was silence, then typing, then a sharp intake of breath. "It's Madison. But why would she?" I didn't answer. I let him figure it out himself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay quiet and let the truth speak. He hung up without saying goodbye. 2 hours later, he called back. "We need to talk. Can you come over tomorrow?" I said yes. The trap was closing, and she'd walked right into it. When I arrived at their house the next day, the tension was thick. Daniel looked exhausted. Madison looked furious. She barely acknowledged me. Daniel sat me down at the kitchen table. "Dad, before you moved out, did you notice anything strange? Anything that seemed off?" I chose my words carefully. "Just small things. Maybe it was me." He leaned forward. "Like what?" I hesitated, playing the reluctant witness. "Madison seemed upset whenever you and I spent time together. But I thought maybe I was imagining it." He rubbed his face. Then he pulled out his phone. "I need to show you something." He played the voicemail. The one from the landline. The one where Madison said she wanted me gone. His hands were shaking. "I found this saved on the machine. Did you know about this?" I nodded slowly. "I heard it. That's why I left." Madison shot up from her chair. "That's taken out of context. I was venting to a friend." Daniel's voice was ice. "What friend?" "There's no outgoing call on the log." She had no answer. Madison exploded. She screamed that I'd manipulated the recording, that I'd turned her own husband against her, that I was a bitter old man who couldn't stand to see his son happy. Daniel just stared at her. Then he walked to the hallway and checked the landline himself. He played the message again. Same words, same voice, same cruelty. He turned to her, face pale. "How could you?" She tried to touch his arm. He pulled away. "I want you to leave, Madison. Stay at your sister's tonight. We'll talk when I've had time to think." She looked at me with pure hatred. "This is your fault." I said nothing. I just watched her grab her purse and storm out. The door slammed so hard the pictures on the wall shook. Daniel collapsed into a chair. "I'm sorry, Dad. I should have seen it sooner." I put my hand on his shoulder. "You see it now. That's what matters." The next weekend, my niece hosted a family barbecue. I wasn't sure I should go, but Daniel insisted. "You're part of this family, Dad. Don't let her take that from you." When I arrived, Madison was already there. She'd come with Daniel, trying to play the devoted wife. But the moment people started asking questions, her mask slipped. My sister asked casually, "Hank, I heard you moved out of Daniel's place. Everything okay?" Before I could answer, someone else chimed in. "Yeah. Didn't you get locked out or something?" Madison's face went white. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Daniel spoke up. "Actually, there's been some issues we're working through." Then he did something I didn't expect. He played the voicemail for everyone. Right there, in front of the whole family. Madison tried to leave, but her sister stopped her. "Is this true?" Madison stammered, made excuses, tried to deflect. But no one was buying it. By the end of the afternoon, she was sitting alone on the porch while everyone else avoided her. She'd isolated herself, and I hadn't said a single word. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice. "Is this Hank?" I confirmed. She sighed. "This is Rebecca, Madison's sister. We need to talk." We met at a coffee shop. Rebecca looked tired. "I need to tell you something. Madison's done this before." She cut our parents out of her life 2 years ago, told everyone they were toxic and controlling. But they weren't. They just didn't give her money whenever she asked. I listened carefully. She isolated her ex-boyfriend from his friends too. It's a pattern. She needs to be the center of someone's world, and she'll destroy anyone who threatens that. Rebecca handed me a folder. These are emails between Madison and our mom. I thought you should see them. I read through them. Manipulation, lies, threats. This wasn't just about me. This was who she was. I thanked Rebecca and drove home. Now I had the full picture, and it was uglier than I'd imagined. I met with Ray, my lawyer friend, at his office. I brought everything, the voicemail, my journal, the emails from Rebecca, screenshots of the insurance cancellation. Ray listened, took notes, and finally leaned back in his chair. Hank, you're building a strong case. But what do you want from this? I thought about it. I want my son to see the truth. I want him safe. And I want her to know she can't do this to people without consequences. Ray nodded. Then we need to be smart. No confrontations. Just documentation. If she tries anything legal, we're ready. If Daniel decides to divorce her, you have evidence to support him. I felt a weight lift. I wasn't trying to destroy her. I was trying to protect my son. There's a difference. And I was going to make sure everyone understood that difference. I kept a detailed journal during my entire stay at Daniel's house. Dates, times, conversations, receipts. I'd learned this habit from my years as a mechanic. Always document everything. I gave the journal to Daniel one afternoon. I know this is hard, but I need you to read this. He flipped through the pages. His face changed with every entry. The locked door, the lies about the groceries, the insurance cancellation, the voicemail. When he finished, he looked up at me with tears in his eyes. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I sat down beside him. Because you had to see her for yourself, son. If I just told you, you might have thought I was exaggerating. But now you have proof. He closed the journal and held it tight. I believe you, Dad. I'm sorry I ever doubted you. That was all I needed to hear. Not revenge. Not vindication. Just belief. Just trust. The rest would follow. Madison tried to flip the script. She told her friends I was emotionally abusive. That I'd controlled Daniel his whole life and couldn't let go. That I was manipulating him to destroy their marriage. But I'd anticipated this. I invited 3 of her closest friends for coffee, one by one. I showed them the voicemail, the journal, the emails from Rebecca. I stayed calm. I didn't badmouth Madison. I just presented facts. By the end of each conversation, they were apologizing to me. We had no idea. She told us such a different story. We're so sorry for believing her. Within 2 weeks, Madison had no defenders left. Her own friends had turned away. Not because I'd poisoned them against her, but because she'd shown them who she really was. The truth doesn't need a loud voice. It just needs to be heard. Madison worked freelance as a salon stylist. She relied on word of mouth and referrals. But word travels fast in small communities. After the family barbecue and the conversations with her friends, people started canceling appointments. One of her biggest clients left a review mentioning personal character concerns. Madison tried to blame me. She posted on social media about smear campaigns and family toxicity. But no one engaged. No one defended her. Her business started crumbling. I didn't feel good about it. I didn't celebrate. I just felt sad. Sad that she'd built her life on lies and manipulation. Sad that she couldn't see how she'd caused her own downfall. Daniel told me she'd been crying every night, asking why everyone was turning against her. He said, she still doesn't think she did anything wrong. That's when I knew she'd never change. And my son needed to move on. Madison tried one last confrontation. She cornered me at Daniel's house while he was in the shower. She screamed at me, calling me every name she could think of. She accused me of ruining her life. She said I was a bitter old man who'd die alone. I just stood there. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. I didn't even look at her. When Daniel came out and saw her screaming at me, he stepped between us. "That's enough, Madison." She turned her fury on him. "You're choosing him over me?" Daniel's voice was steady. "I'm choosing the truth." I quietly walked out the front door. I didn't need to be part of that fight. My silence said everything. Madison's screaming faded as I got into my car. I drove back to my apartment and made myself a cup of coffee. It was over. I didn't need to do anything else. She'd destroyed herself with her own words, her own actions. I just held up the mirror. 3 days later, Daniel showed up at my apartment. He didn't call first. He just knocked on the door. When I opened it, he looked exhausted but calm. "Can I come in, Dad?" We sat in my small living room. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then finally, "You raised me better than this. I should have seen through her sooner." I shook my head. "You loved her. That's not a weakness." He smiled sadly. "I'm moving forward. I need to." I hugged him tight. No tears. Just quiet understanding. He stayed for dinner. We talked about old times. About his mom. About the future. For the first time in months, I saw my son smile genuinely. Not the fake smile he wore around Madison, but the real one. The one I remembered from when he was a kid. That's all I'd ever wanted. My son back. Safe. Happy. Free. A week later, I visited Daniel at his house. He was organizing the garage. On the kitchen counter, I saw a manila folder. I didn't ask about it, but I recognized the letterhead. It was from a law firm. Divorce papers. Daniel caught me looking. "It's the right thing, Dad." I nodded. "I know." He looked relieved that I wasn't going to push for details or ask questions. This was his decision, his life, his healing process. I was just glad he was finally free from someone who'd tried to isolate him from everyone who loved him. Later that evening, he told me Madison had already moved out. She'd gone to stay with a friend in another state. She didn't fight the divorce. Maybe she knew she couldn't win. Or maybe she'd already moved on to her next victim. Either way, she was gone. And my son was finally breathing again. A month after the divorce was filed, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Madison. I held the envelope for a long time, debating whether to open it. Finally, I decided not to. Whatever she had to say, apology, explanation, or accusation, I didn't need to hear it. I'd spent months dealing with her lies and manipulation. I didn't owe her my attention anymore. I put the letter back in the envelope, wrote "Return to Sender" across the front, and dropped it in the mailbox. I would not be her closure. I would not be her therapist. I would not be her final audience. She'd made her choices. Now she had to live with them, and I had to move forward with my own life. That evening, I felt lighter than I had in years. Daniel and I started having breakfast together every Sunday morning. Just the two of us. Pancakes, bacon, coffee. Simple. Peaceful. No drama. No tension. Just a father and son reconnecting. One morning, he asked, "Dad, do you want to move back in? The house feels empty." I smiled and shook my head. "I'm good where I am, son. I've got my peace. That's all I ever wanted." He nodded, understanding. "You know, I learned a lot from watching how you handled everything. You never lost your cool. You never stooped to her level." I sipped my coffee. Revenge isn't about destruction, Daniel. It's about clarity. About making the truth undeniable. He smiled. "You didn't just protect yourself. You protected me too." That was the greatest compliment he could have given me. Because that's all I'd ever wanted, to protect my son. And I'd succeeded. People say revenge is petty. That it's beneath good people. I used to think that too. But I learned something through all of this. Revenge, when done right, isn't about destroying someone. It's about revealing the truth. It's about protecting the people you love from those who would harm them. Madison wanted to erase me from my son's life. She wanted to isolate him, control him, and make him believe I was the problem. But instead, she erased herself. Not because I attacked her, not because I spread lies, but because I stayed calm, documented everything, and let her own actions speak for themselves. Today I'm at peace. My son is free, and Madison is someone else's problem now. I didn't win by being louder. I won by being smarter. And sometimes that's the only revenge you need. The truth, presented clearly and calmly, is the most powerful weapon you can wield. And I wielded it perfectly.